Welcome back to another episode of the Braun Performance and Rehab Podcast, powered by ISOFIT and Firefly Recovery. ISOFIT is my go-to for all things isometric strength training. For more on ISOFIT, be sure to check out ISO. Episodes like this are made possible by Firefly, the official recovery provider of the Braun Performance and Rehab Podcast. For more on Firefly, be sure to check out recoveryfirefly.com. This episode is powered by Dr. Ray Gorman, founder of Engage Movement. Learn how to boost your income without relying on sessions. Get a free training on the blended practice model by following at Ray Gorman DPT on Instagram. Ellie, welcome to the podcast. I'm super excited to work with you today. For people who aren't familiar with you and all the amazing stuff you're doing around the endurance space, we'll call it, cross country and so on that way, would you mind filling them in a bit about who you are and all that you've got going on?
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for having me. My name's Ellie. I go to the University of Minnesota Duluth. I'm currently a junior here. I'm studying exercise science, minoring in health and wellness coaching. I also run cross country and track, like Dan said. I played hockey, oddly enough, for 12 years throughout my junior and high school career, and so it's kind of a weird combo having hockey and running in my past. But I also ran cross country and track throughout high school and have continued through the collegiate level, and I'm really enjoying it. I'd say I'm probably having the most fun I've ever had in my entire running career, so I feel like it can only get better from here on out.
I love that. I love to hear that. And it's interesting because running is one of those sports that's always like discussed for one reason or another. Some people are like, why would anyone want to run? Like, that's the punishment for our sport. And then other people are all just kind of like all in on it. And they get almost like addicted to the sport that way, so much so that they'll run 70, 80, 90. Some people I've talked with run 100 plus miles a week. And it's just crazy to me because I'm lucky to run 10 miles a week. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about how we got to this point in our running career where, we're at this point where, hey, we love it more every single day, every single week. But also we've got a background in something more like ice hockey, which I think when people hear Minnesota, they think hockey before they think running, if I had to guess.
For sure. Yeah, it's actually funny that you mentioned kind of two different ways that people think about running. It's either punishment or they love it. And kind of the almost the deciding factor between hockey and running for me was when we started getting punished in hockey by doing conditioning drills off ice. And I'm just like, they're like, all right, go run a mile. And I'm like, twist my arm. Like I love to run. And so, I've been running truly since, I don't know, as long as I can remember. I think my first 5K race was maybe when I was in third grade. I did lots of like running clubs in elementary school. And I just loved, I don't know what it was about it, but my family, no offense to them, they're not runners. They don't, not a big running community in my family. So it was kind of like out of the blue that I wanted to run. So I did hockey and running kind of side by side. And my family obviously loved to watch me play hockey. It's a little easier to watch than chasing me down the cross country course. And so they were really rooting for me to play hockey in college. But like I said, the deciding factor was just kind of, I started to really enjoy the process of running more than hockey for some reason. Like, I love the camaraderie of hockey and all like the team aspect, but just the process of distance running and being patient with your training, and finally seeing that come to fruition was just so rewarding to me, as well as like the community of running is just, it's something that I've never experienced before in a team sport, because although people say it's an individual sport, I think that because it's so, all that pressure is placed on us to perform, like we don't have a team to lean on, as if, when we're racing, like our performance comes down to what our body can do. I think that's especially important to have a good support system around you. And so that's when I really fell in love with it. Made my best friends in running. I still have friends that I ran with in running club back in elementary school. I'm still best friends with them. And I don't know, I think running just has a way of just connecting us all in one way or another through all the hard workouts. Like, we all kind of suffer together through these workouts. You don't have different positions or anything. We're all doing this one race and we all know what it takes to perform. So
There's absolutely something to be said about that. Something about this process of running through, I should say, a difficult thing with your teammates that way. And I think that allows you to grow up closer together as teammates so that when race day comes around, as you mentioned, it's not just an individual thing. We talked about this with a few other athletes on the podcast recently about their kind of experience in running and cross country and track and field and so on that way. And it's very much looked at as an individual sport, but in reality, it's anything but. A lot of times, coaches and teams make strategies for the race. Maybe people are going to run together, help set paces and so on that way. There's a guy we worked with years ago on the podcast, Kyle, who actually ran in a marathon with his wife, literally just to pace her for the marathon. Like, he was like, look, I'm doing this for her. It's not really a me thing that way. And I think it's one of those sports that can be a lot more selfless if you just look a little deeper within it. And I also want to just shout out real quick and tip my hat to those that go watching cross country events in particular. As someone who's done it a few times back in college, I gotta say, I've never been to an experience like that before. Like, I felt like I was running just as much as you all were, just to try and like catch glimpses of the race that way. I'm like, I'm here, I'm there, I'm everywhere, I'm just all over the place. I'm like, my goodness, this is a freaking workout here.
Yeah, my mom, I mean, she's been watching me ever since I started competing in 7th grade, and she would always ask me before the race, okay, like, where do you want me to stand on the race? Because we knew the courses from the previous years, and I'm like, okay, I want you here, I want you here. And she got to a point where she's like, you know what? I'll just meet you at the finish line. I don't want to run, chase you around, because one, I can't really hear her. There's so many people. And two, I'm just like, I mean, I need you the most at the finish line, to be honest.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'd imagine that final push and final kick is really going to take a lot out of you. And it's funny to me because I haven't run nearly as many races as you have. You've probably run more races in a month than I've run in my entire life. But one of the things I always sucked at was the whole concept of pacing for the race. Like, I just want to freaking go. Like, I'm just going to send it. I don't want to, like, control or reserve. Like, I'm just going to go until the wheels fall off. And I usually find out that the wheels do indeed fall off at some point in the race. How do you go about this process of understanding like how much to push or when to push and kick and all these different like terms that get thrown around the running community all the time that way? Like, how are you able to kind of balance that from a running side and know like when to push really hard, when to run fast, when to like slow it down a little bit? Because that's something I've never been good at.
Yeah, that's a great question. And you'd think like after 10 plus years of running, I would have mastered it by now, but I still have a lot to learn. And it's very different between cross country and track. Cross country, I like to tell people I like it a lot more because I have more time and space to kind of work with my pace throughout a 6K race, right? So instead of doing an 800 on the track where I have no room for mistakes in my pace, I can't get cut off, I can't get boxed in. Cross country, I kind of have to hold myself back a little bit, oddly enough. Like, my first miles, I want to shoot for like 6 minutes to 6:15. Like, that's probably a pretty consistent. If I can stay at that pace throughout the entire race, that's a great race. But I often find myself in the 5:45, 5:50 pace, for that first mile, because I'm so excited to go. Like, it seems so like I get so excited to race cross country, but I get so nervous to run track. It's very like, it's a whole different like field of athletes that you're running with, cross country versus track. As for track, it's I run the 800, so I'm very locked in at what points in the track that I need to start picking it up or I need to flow down a backstretch. And you have to master that. And that is the hardest part about the 800, is just knowing if you can push a little bit further on the backstretch or you need to start drafting behind somebody, that kind of thing. And honestly, I have learned to be more confident in the 800. I think that's where a lot of my growth has been in the track realm, is just having confidence in my training and my ability to be able to hold such hard pace, and just trusting that the training that I've done has set me up for success, basically. And the 800 is not mental at that point. I like to tell myself that running is 90% mental and 10% physical. And it's true, especially when it comes to 800, it's a lot of pressure. So I really just like to keep it locked in up here and just let my body do the work.
Yeah, absolutely. I can appreciate that. And it's always interesting to me because on one hand, I always, and again, this is the not runner talking here. I should always add that in. I always felt less motivated to run when I was running circles around a track or when I was running on a treadmill inside. Like I just never felt like I was going anywhere, regardless of which of the two I was doing that way. I always felt better about running when I went out on like trails, or like when I run now, I go on the road and just kind of like turn down random roads and hope I can find my way home afterwards. It's like a little adventure that way. When in reality, I feel like from a racing standpoint, there's got to be advantages to running and racing on a track where you kind of know where the turns are, what to expect, and so on. That way, you know what's coming and you know what the course is going to provide for you that way, I feel.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I would have to agree. I think like I've kind of said this as kind of a joke around the team is, man, I hate when everybody can see me the entire time during a race. And that's why I don't like track, because I mean, I'm fighting for my life and everyone's watching. And so I think that's kind of why I gravitate towards cross country too, just because it is, in an odd way, it is kind of spiritual to me running cross country, because there's parts of the race where it's loud, there's people everywhere, and your adrenaline is just so high, and you're running a 5:45 first mile, and then you get to the back end, the back stretch of that course, and it's just silent, and all you can hear are your footsteps and people all around you breathing, and it's just like we're all in this together. Like, yes, we're competing, but it's so like unifying in a way that we all know the hard work it takes to be a cross country runner, and we're all just going out here to do our best. And we can appreciate everybody that's out there running. So
Absolutely. Now, what do the workouts and prep work look like for you with cross country? Because obviously, as most people can probably put together, you're going to be running quite a bit, but it's not just go out and run 5 miles every single day. There's usually a little bit more to it than that.
yeah. So I love the training that our coach schedules for us. She gives us all personalized training plans. So based on she kind of takes into account what we run in track too, because we're running year round. So I'm coming off of outdoor track season, running 800s, running relatively low mileage. So I'm considered a lower distance runner or a mid distance runner, because I run the 800 in track. So my long runs um, consist of 10 to 13 miles. And that's crazy if that's considered a low distance or a mid distance runner. But we have women on the team that will do 14, 15-mile long runs. And that's what we do every Sunday. So long run starts off the week. Mondays kind of rolling into a recovery run, which for me is 7 miles, nice and easy, with some dynamic stretching afterwards, a few strides just to open up our stride a little bit, stretch out those hips. And then Tuesday goes into a workout day. And our workouts have been challenging this year. I think that there's a huge difference between cross country and track workouts. Cross country is focused on volume, just running as much as you can for as hard as you can. And so let's see, Tuesday was yesterday. We actually did a track workout yesterday, but it was a track cross country workout. So we did 4 miles on the track, and it was 400 repeats. And so it was 400 rest, 400 rest, 400 rest, 400 rest times 4. So 16 400s on the track. So it's a lot of volume, but it's very productive and doable compared to my high school days. We can get into that later if we want to. But and then Wednesday is my favorite day. And today's flex day, and that means that we get the day off. And I really enjoy having a day off in the middle of the week, because it almost feels like the weekends are meant for or the weekdays are meant for school and tests and studying and all of that. And I feel like keeping all that school and sports together during the week would be ideal. And then having that one little break in between is a huge help to catch up on homework or run, get groceries during the week. And then my weekends are pretty much dedicated to racing and stuff like that. And then going back into Thursdays, another easy recovery run. So another 7-mile run. And then Fridays is another workout day, usually a lower intensity workout just to finish off the week. And then Saturdays are either cross training, whatever your body needs. That's what she just puts on my training schedule, whatever you need here. And typically that looks for me like 3 to 4 miles, nice and easy, or a cross train. So, and then we go right back into it. So it's very ebb and flow, but it works. My coach knows how to train women, and that has been a huge change since high school, and I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. No, it's so interesting to hear you say that, because I find a lot of times some of the female runners that I've worked with really get run into the ground. And as you mentioned, the high mileage is, on one hand, it's needed. You need to have some kind of long run. But on the other hand, if you're running 80, 90, 100 miles a week over and over and over again, and you never really have a chance to recover and rebuild afterwards, you're eventually going to hit this point where things start to break. And I feel like now more than ever, there's this rise of knowledge and understanding and research being done on the female runner population, because they're starting to realize, like, oh, we can't just run everyone the same, and everyone kind of needs a little bit more of a unique and individualized approach, right? Like some people might be training for the 800 and they might run 20 miles a week, and others might train for the same event and run 40 miles a week. Everyone is so different. And I think, to the point that you made, having that more individualized approach is really essential.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I mentioned this before in a chat that we had earlier, but we had a woman on the team. She was our top 800 runner, and she ran a 2:08 800. She made nationals. She was incredible. She just graduated, but her long runs were 6 miles. And it's like, to have that in perspective, to think that like everybody is different. Every woman needs something different. We're not a one size fits all training plan. And that is just so encouraging to see, like, to see the results, to see her as a person excel on such low mileage is so reassuring, knowing that like less is more sometimes, like we don't, like you said, a lot of people think that you need more mileage to be better, but seeing that, it is very eye-opening and just helps me feel a little bit better about kind of me being a mid-distance girly and still being able to run cross country, because I think there's not too many 800 runners on the track team that also run cross country. We have some that go back and forth cross country and track, but then there's just some 800 runners. So I think it's really great that we have that woman as an example.
Absolutely. Yeah. And as you mentioned, more is not always better. And I find a lot of times people always think more is better. So they do more running, more conditioning, more of everything that way. What are some ways that you go about yourself that way to perform at this high level in an endurance-based sport where typically people are thinking, I just need to do more in order to get better? What are some ways that you feel like you're able to improve your performance without simply just adding more mileage and more stuff to it?
Yeah, absolutely. I learned this the hard way last year. I was very determined to do it all my sophomore year it was actually 1 year ago today when I was kind of entering sophomore year cross country season. And I was very determined to do all the things, to run the high mileage, to do the most sets on the team, to just, I've been desperate for a PR. Let's just say that. It's been a long time since I PR'd. So I was very much ready to go this season. Especially, I also added on a lot of like extracurriculars to fill my time. I was coaching hockey as well. And so I overloaded myself. So not even just physically, but also mentally and emotionally. I was tapped. And it got to a point I was just about to leave for regional cross country championships down in Joplin, Missouri. So big trip. I was a sophomore on the team. It's kind of a big deal for somebody my age. And I was so burnt out that I got super sick. My immune system completely shut down. I got probably the sickest I've ever been because I was so overwhelmed with high mileage and extracurriculars, everything in my life. I had left no room for rest and got super sick, still raced and did fairly well, which I thank God for that because I was not doing well. But it really just, it opened my eyes to the importance of rest. And my coach does a really great job of communicating this with us, and that rest is not a bad thing. And there's been times where I come to practice and I'm like, I'm just like not feeling well. I'm either under the weather or my shins are hurting. And if I was in high school still, my coach would tell me to run through it or to get on the bike or do something. And my coach would be like, just go home, like go home and rest and enjoy the rest of the day. And I've always been under this impression that like, if I rest, I'm going to lose training. And now having 3 years of college running, 2 years of college running under my belt, that is just not true. I have benefited so much more from more rest than I have for just pushing through a workout because I'm not feeling well. It's not going to be productive. It's going to probably set you back more than set you forward. So I definitely learned it the hard way, but rest is and mental rest too. I've had to say no to some social functions or say no to hockey coaching because I just need to do my thing. I just need to sit at home, throw on some Netflix and just rest my mind and my body. It makes all the difference in the world.
Quick break, because if you're a rehab professional sick of burnout, this could be your answer. Engage Movement's blended practice model is a proven system built by Dr. Ray Gorman, a PT who walked away from the 55-hour-a-week grind and built a blended practice model that doubled his income while working less than 25 hours a week, and he didn't have to rely on the traditional way of selling sessions to do so. It's all about blending remote and in-person services, stacking monthly recurring revenue, and building a business that finally supports your life, not the other way around. This model isn't just theory. Real providers, including myself, are creating lives of freedom and flexibility without being tied to their schedule. And as a listener, you get free access to the complete training. DM my name, Dan, to @RayGormanDPT on Instagram and receive your free breakdown on the model. Yeah, no, absolutely. I love that. And I love the point that you made too about just like in general, rest being so essential, because a lot of times, especially when we're in college, we're able to get by without a lot of rest, I found, right? You have these people that pull all-nighters studying for stuff, and they're going all in on like academics and athletics and all the things all the time, and it's just all gas, no breaks. And that's almost like worn as like a trophy almost in a way. It's like, and I'm guilty of this myself. Exhaustion is a badge of honor. The more you're able to accomplish, the better your day was, or the more successful you were, right? But in reality, it's not necessarily just a game of how fast you run the race. It's also about actually being in the race for the entire time and not dipping out early because of something that could have been prevented if you just were able to pace yourself a little bit better. And I find a lot of times people just love to go all gas, no brakes. Like I mentioned before, they go all in, go, go, go. And then they hit that wall and it's like, oh shoot, I can't keep going because I didn't leave enough in the tank to overcome this phase. So I think to the point that you made, knowing that if you're going to go all in, you also have to refill what you poured out regularly throughout your time is absolutely essential. And I think that actually makes the time that you put in the work a lot more effective and efficient, right? If I sleep 3 hours a night and then try and run and then try and do all these other things, there's going to come a point where I'm just falling asleep doing it and my outputs are just way down. Versus if I actually take the time and prep and recover properly, now I'm actually going to get more out of the work that I put into it, right? It's the difference between making an investment that exponentially compounds versus one that just kind of gains very simple interest, right? You look at those savings accounts with 0.006 or whatever percent interest and how long it takes for you to actually grow money versus what it would do in like one of those high yield things. And I'm not a finance guy by any means, just using it as an example of like the difference that you get when you're able to compound things more over time. And I think the same is true with training, whether it's endurance or whatever kind of performance you're after. The more you're able to kind of take those steps back to recover and put everything into your training, the better you're going to be long term.
Yeah, absolutely. That reminds me of, so kind of going back to what I was saying about my high school days, I really struggled with a lot of like eating things. I was a disordered eater in high school, and that really translated in my future training. So what I mean by that is I peaked in high school in my junior year. So my junior year, I got the school record in the 800 twice. I was probably the fastest I'd ever been cross country wise. I was on fire, but I was not healthy. I was not sustaining. Like I said, my eating was disordered. I felt bad about eating. I felt that like I had to run in order to eat. I had to reward myself with food after I ran. And so after my junior year, that all caught up with me. And my senior year was the worst running I have ever done. And by this point, I was already committed to college. So I wasn't worried about, not finding college that would take me based on my senior times. But I was really disappointed that for some reason, my body wasn't keeping up. And I went through my college career. So I came to college, and I told my coach about this, and she did such a great job of reiterating the importance that food is fuel and that rest is fuel. And you just need so many different aspects. There's so many different aspects of running, more than just running. And so when I finally got to college, I could tell that my energy stores were depleted, right? I wasn't running huge mileages. I was back to my, old, slow cross-country times. I haven't PR'd in track since that junior year of high school. But I'd say coming into this year, I feel like I have a lot of potential. I finally feel like I have my eating back on track. I have my training back on track. My rest, I've got that nailed down. I have so much more potential for growth because of all these factors that I've taken into account. And so last track season, I was very, very close to my all-time 800 PR. And that was kind of a wake-up moment for me where I'm like, okay, I need to keep doing what I'm doing. I need to keep sustaining, I need to keep pacing myself, like you said, pacing myself through life and through my training, so that I don't overwork myself, or I need to keep eating great foods and just eat when I'm hungry. I think a lot of athletes overthink eating, but truly my coach changed my perspective on this. And she said, no food is bad food. And I really love that she said this, because it's true. Every food that you eat has a purpose. It does something for your body. And since then, I've kind of felt like less pressure around eating. I haven't done the whole track your macros, I think that's just too complicated. Just eat when you're hungry, especially for us distance runners when we're expending 2,500 calories a day plus. I think it's just more is more in that sense. I think just eat when you're hungry. And that is, I can feel that throughout my entire life. I can feel it. I can focus better in school, and I can go to practice feeling ready for the workout. Even if I didn't have a great meal that day, I know that I have been preparing myself throughout the whole week, eating great foods. And yeah, I just think that like we talked about, it compounds. You have to stay consistent with the things that are going to make you better.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And it's so interesting that you bring that up. I'm by no means a specialist or expert in this area. However, I have noticed that a lot of athletes struggle with their relation with food at some point or another. And it's something that I feel like needs to be getting more attention and given more resources, just because it's such a rising problem that, as you mentioned, I think given the right mindset, the right resources, and the right people, some of these different things could be prevented, but it just seems to come up quite a bit that way. Is there anything that really stood out to you when you were overcoming that was really helpful to you or beneficial to you, or anything that you want to share to other athletes who also might be struggling with something similar?
Yeah. I mean, like I said earlier, like you need food to just sustain basic human functions. And the fact that us as runners are doing more than just sustaining, like we are pushing our bodies every single day, 40 plus miles a week. And that is just an incredible energy expenditure. And so, like I said, food is fuel with everything that you do, especially since a lot of us are student athletes. Like we get up early for lift, we go to school for 6 hours a day, and then we go and run 7 miles. It's just incredible what our bodies can do, but we have to treat it right. We need to basically, like, going back to what my coach said about how no food is a bad food, like truly just having snacks on hand all the time, just eating when you're hungry and not feeling bad about it. I think just, and I've taken a lot of nutrition classes, so it's giving me a little bit more insight into, how our body metabolizes things, and energy expenditure and stuff like that. So I have a little more knowledge behind, how much food I really need. But honestly, I think it also comes down to like the environment that I've been put in. And I've been so blessed to have a great community of women around me that have really preached good, like body positivity, eating positivity. And we've never had a negative stigma around eating. And I think like having an all-female coaching staff has really been super beneficial to me, because I've had male coaches my whole life through hockey and running. And no offense to you guys, but I think that it's just a whole nother level of being personable and having a deeper connection, woman to woman, just being able to truly understand the stresses around eating, especially as a distance runner. I always say that I'm not really built as a distance runner. I mean, I was a hockey player, so I'm a little bit more muscular than some of those distance runners that you'll see. But I just want to tell you that like your body is incredible no matter the size, and you need to treat it with respect and to feed it and to fuel it, because it can do amazing things.
Absolutely. No, I could not agree more. And as you mentioned, there's definitely certain things that some of us cannot relate to. And it's funny because I felt like in my clinical practice in Maryland anyways, the majority of my patients were female. And I always
Yeah.
tell them at one point or another, it's like, look, like there's things that could be playing into why you're here that I can't really relate to and I can't really speak to from a personal experience. However, I can certainly get you to someone who can do that. And I think
Yeah.
that's ultimately what's needed at the end of the day. Is it's like you don't
Mhm.
have to be the single person that has all the answers to everything in the universe. You just have to care and show that you give a damn about the athlete and that you're willing to do what it takes to help them give what they need and recognize what they might need, and know that you're not always going to be the person that is going to be able to provide all of that, right? If you have high
Mhm.
respect for the athlete and you have low ego overall, then like life is good at the end of the day. And I mean,
Oh
that's
yeah.
not like secrets to the universe by any means. I just feel like it's just like common sense as it relates to working with athletes, in my opinion.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. And I think that now coming into my junior year of college, I just now realized that like I'm the upperclassman now, and that I have a responsibility to kind of set the tone and to kind of set the standard of how we want to talk about food in the locker room or on our runs. And I think it's been a really great learning experience, because I was a captain in high school. I remember that leadership role, and I love that leadership role. That's what's really gotten me into health and wellness coaching as my minor. I just love providing support and guidance for younger generations. And so now that I'm a junior in college, I kind of have stepped into that role again and have really just been like a positive light in the locker room. I think like our community are like we basically live in the locker room. So our whole team, like throughout the day, if you need somewhere to go sit and chat, there's somebody in the locker room probably that you're gonna go talk with. So I like to be kind of that outlet for anyone that needs anything, that has questions about training, about life. Honestly, like not everything run. I like to say running isn't who I am. It's just what I do. And that was a huge shift from high school to college. Being able to let go of that identity in running and putting it in, first of all, putting it in Christ. My faith is a huge part of my identity. It is my identity. Jesus is my identity. But also like I am a daughter. I'm a sister. I'm a best friend. I'm a girlfriend. I'm a roommate. Like there's so many other aspects to my identity that go into who I am, and it's not just running anymore. And that has given me so much more freedom, and it's taken the pressure off of me too. So I just really want to share that with the younger girls coming up, to just show them that like college is just, it's the start of your adulthood essentially, and that there's so much freedom around you, and that you have the opportunity to just become somebody new. If you didn't, if in high school running was your identity, like it's time to let that go, because there's so much more to life than just running.
It makes me think of the iceberg analogy at the end of the day. There's so much more beneath the surface of any athlete. I don't care if you're talking about the ones you see on TV with different sports or just like local JUCO D3 school that way. There's so much more under the surface, yet there's certainly a bit of an identity crisis. And this is something we talked about at length with Alyssa Herman earlier this year on the podcast, because she literally developed a whole business around that transition for athletes, going from my identity is in sports to shoot, where do I put myself now? What do I stand for? What do people think of me, right? Like when people hear my name, do they think of me as like, oh, they're this athlete, they play this sport? Or do they think of all the other things that I'm known for, that I am, that I do? And it's so interesting to me that you bring up faith, because this comes up on so many podcasts that I do with athletes. And I'm certainly a little bit biased, and I'm not ashamed to admit that I believe in the Christian faith. And if that's a problem, like, please feel free to unsubscribe from the podcast, because this doesn't have to be the place for everyone by any means. However, I certainly think that there's something, and I don't necessarily have the best words for it. I'm not the most eloquent in this space by any means, but I certainly think that there's something about this overlap between faith and sport and faith and athletics. And I think that's why you see some of these different organizations like the FCA pop up and exist and thrive that way. Is there's so much of an overlap. And I think a lot of the different teachings, like I'm a big Proverbs 27:17 fellow that way, right? At the end of the day, if y'all are just go in it together, and you go in with this mindset that we're going to sharpen one another and we're going to make each other better, and the rising tides are going to elevate all the ships in the water, then, you've got again, I'm not sharing secrets to the universe by any means, but I feel like that's a good core philosophy to have if you're trying to be successful in sport. And success is also going to look different from one team to the next. To a certain extent, you're in sport because you want to compete and you want to win and you want to be the best. But by the same token, I don't want to be the person, and again, this is the NARP talking in this conversation right now. I want to make that very clear. I don't want to be the one that wins at the cost of giving up all the things that I value personally, and the concept of just being a good person, a good friend, or mate. At the end of the day, it's like, okay, we won, but maybe the team hates each other. We don't talk, we don't hang out, and we're good in competition, but there's nothing else holding us together. Versus like, hey, like, this team is more like a family, and I mean like one of those good put together families that way. And I think the more you can kind of buy into that concept, the better off you're going to be.
Going back to kind of the whole identity thing, and there was truly a shift in my mind when I came to college, and I roomed with my best friend. We're still best friends and we're living together again this year. But I roomed with her and she is the most, she just loves the Lord, and she really just encouraged me every single day. And I thank her a lot for helping me through my faith journey. And going into my freshman year of college, my identity was still in running. And when I finally made the switch to my identity is in Christ, like the pressure was just lifted off my shoulders, and I was running to glorify God and not to win anymore. And that has just been such a blessing because I love the process of running. I love training my body. I love pushing it. I love being tired. Like, what a privilege it is to roll out of bed sore. Like, I am just in awe of what my body can do. And I thank the Lord every single day for that. And honestly, when it comes to races, I race for an audience of one. I don't race for, I mean, I race for my mom when she comes and watches me, but I don't feel the pressure of racing anymore. I don't, my race is in the Lord's hands. I put in the work, but when it comes down to it, it's me and the Lord out there. And I just thank him through a good race or a bad race. I just thank him for the ability that I was able to run. And it's just, there's not a day goes by that I'm not grateful for not being injured. I dealt with a lot of injuries in high school, probably didn't go on a single run without my shins hurting. And since coming to college, knock on wood, haven't had a single injury, haven't had a single pain in my shins. And it's just amazing. I'm just incredibly grateful.
Absolutely. No, we love to hear all of that way. When you were facing injury, is there anything that you learned from that experience that you want to share with other athletes? Because it seems like the only way to avoid getting injured is to just spend your life sitting on the couch and leaving a nice imprint on the freaking lazy boy that way. And that's not really an option for a lot of athletes that way. So how do you go about maintaining the right mindset and this overall just positive attitude when sometimes physically things are not going the way that you want them to?
Yeah. It's funny that you say that a lot of people would just rather, sit and avoid the whole risk of getting injured. My dad always jokes, nobody moves, nobody gets hurt. And I just laugh because I could never, I gotta always be running. And us as distance runners, if we go a day without running, something feels wrong. Like something like in our mind and our body, dang, like I really wish I went on a run today. And honestly, it just goes back to rest. And I know as high school runners, like I was talking to some of the incoming freshmen, and she's like, yeah, our coach, like even if we were injured, he still wanted us to cross train an hour and a half, or still wanted us to do a light jog at least just to get something in. But honestly, like the rest, less is more. If you do get injured, like it is the most, I would say it affected me more mentally and emotionally than it did physically. Because my team was my best friend, like my best friends, and being injured, being away from practice, not being able to race, that was really tough. And honestly, I did that to myself because I could have stayed connected with them. I could have still came to practice. I could have still watched them run, but I really isolated myself, kind of just out of disappointment. I felt that once I was injured, I was done. I wasn't part of the team anymore. I didn't really have a role on the team. I didn't have a purpose to be there. But regardless of your athletic stance or your athletic eligibility, you still have a major role on the team, whether that's just an encouraging word in the locker room, or just a smiling face before you go out on a run, or just someone that makes you laugh in the locker room or in the training room after practice. Like you make an impact on the team, whether you know it or not, and an injury should not stop that.
I 100% agree. And I probably sound like a little bit of a dead horse bringing this up because I feel like I bring it up a lot. But this is one of the many reasons that I advocate so strongly for this concept of on-field rehab, or, more of a team-based kind of rehab setting, if you will. And I don't really care
Yeah.
what your role is with the team, whether you're AT, PT, whatever. It's just a matter of how do we get the athlete to be around their team and with their team more, instead of segregated away from their team in the little dark
Yeah.
training room with poor lighting. It's like the more we can keep everyone feeling like they're a part of the team and they're a part of the conversation and they're still in the picture, even when injury happens, I think the better
Yeah.
off it's going to be for all of us, and especially the athlete, right? The sooner we can empower them and start giving them things to do, the better they're going to do in their process, right? I think a lot of times we argue over stuff that doesn't matter. Like, I don't really care if you feel like every set needs to be done with 8 repetitions or 10 repetitions. I don't want to talk about that. I don't even want to debate that stuff anymore. Like, it matters a lot less to me if your rep count is 1 or 2 different than mine, than if we're just providing the best experience possible for the athletes and putting their needs and values ahead of what our own personal ones might be.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think we've had a lot of injuries in the track setting. There's kind of a running joke that the athletic training room ran out of walking boots because the whole track team took them. And so it's really tough to see, because especially these incoming freshmen that have these hopes and dreams of being a college athlete, they're finally coming true, and then they get injured. And then I've seen a handful of athletes just give up on track because they just kept getting injured. And that's really tough because, I mean, being a college athlete takes a lot. Your schedule is jam-packed. You're dealing with school, sports, racing, traveling. It's a big commitment, and to throw that all the way, kind of, it's sad to see. And so going back to the whole trying to stay connected with your team even when you are injured is huge. And I think our team has done such a great job with making sure that even if you do have a stress fracture, you're still coming to morning lift and doing upper arms, or just doing some core, just being there with the team so that all of your hard work doesn't seem to go to waste.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I could not agree more. It's a matter of how do we find something that we can do to, again, move that needle forward in the right direction and continue to be a part of the team and the people around us that way. I feel like we could probably talk about this all day long. I mean, you're an incredible person, Ellie, and you've got so many amazing experiences and insights to share that way. Is there anything we missed as we were chatting about you and your journey and experiences today?
I don't think so. I think, I don't know. We'll be in touch if anything exciting happens.
Absolutely. And for people who want to find out more about you, where can they find you at on Instagram, TikTok, all the things that way?
Yeah, well, I post a lot of my my running related things on my running account. It's called Ellie on the Run. So Ellie.on-the-run. I'm kind of a local celebrity around UMD here. Had some incoming freshmen meet me for the first time. They're like, "Are you Ellie on the Run?" And I'm like, "Yes, I am." Like, "Where do you want me to sign?" Like,
Oh my goodness.
so yeah, Ellie on the Run is I'm trying to grow that channel a little bit. So if you want to like that, otherwise Ellie Hanowski is my main account. So yeah.
Absolutely. We'll link to all of that in the description below too. That way, if you didn't quite catch it, you can just click there and see everything that Ellie and the squad are up to. Ellie, this was amazing. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.